you guys would have been 5 and 6 at about the time of September 11, 2001.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember anything about that day? Any impressions that stick out in your mind?
Well, I went to St. Monica School, so when the teachers figured out what was happening, they kind of gathered us into one classroom and sat us there, and we just we were looking at the screen. I remember seeing the buildings, and we didn't really know what was going on, but we were kind of weirded out because the teachers were like huddling and talking really quietly. And then when I got home, my parents explained it, and that's when I cried because I understood it when I was younger, but yeah, we were all kind of weirded out. Like, we were afraid that something was going to happen because of like the Shanksville and all that kind of stuff. We were afraid something was going to happen.
On the bus coming home from kindergarten, heard on the radio about the towers being hit, and I didn't understand anything, and I walked up the road to home, and Mom was crying out in the yard, putting flags, like the small flags out, and then went in the house and saw it on TV, and started to understand then that was all happening.
And I was at home when it happened, and I was just playing with Legos or something like that, and my mom comes up all upset, and she kind of explained what happened, and I turned on the news, and I saw it that way.
What have you learned, or what's your understanding of what happened?
Can you want me to go?
You can go if you want to.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it's scary that we have to live in a world where now our security has to be so intensely crazy and strict because things like that would happen. Like, I just think it's sad, and especially like what exactly happened with our country and how I don't know. I feel like our world shouldn't be that way with that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's scary to think that they had the guts to attack us in our homeland with their own people and feel that they had the power to do something like that to the greatest country there is. Strongest with military and stuff like that.
Like they both said, it definitely is scary, and to think how vulnerable we are and how the precautions we're taking, how they are helping, but you just never really know.
You know, do you see your generation as kind of maybe, I guess, how growing tired of, we've always been in Afghanistan, we've had Iraq, and I mean, how do you think your peers, how do you guys kind of look at that?
I just see it as normal every day. I mean, it's always really been that way. I don't see it as anything different. You know, you always hear in the news stuff in Iraq and Afghanistan, Al-Qaeda and all that stuff. It's just, I don't know, typical day-to-day stuff now.
In a way, I'd like to think it brought us together a little bit, that we all know the dangers and we all know kind of how precious life is now, and in some ways I'd like to think it made us a little more patriotic.
Yeah, I feel it really brought home the sacrifices that people in our country make for everybody else, like all the firemen who lost their lives. Like, when I realized that as a little kid and as I grew up, like, I was amazed with the integrity and the courage that they had. Like, as a country like this, I feel like what Ryan said, we really pull together when things like this happen, and we realize what our human nature is.
I don't know. I don't remember much before the conflict started, so it's almost always been like that. You know what I mean? It was just life. It's the way I remember everything is with the conflicts.
Yeah, it's hard to compare since that's how I grew up, and before that we were so young that not a lot really mattered back then. So since we like 5 and 6, that's basically been our life.
So we've been desensitized to what conflict actually is and what the world is going through. Like, we're like, oh, okay, that's happening now. That's what it is. It is what it is, you know. And I feel like we just keep rolling with it because we're like, okay.
It's kind of difficult to picture peace since we're not used to it, but that we should remember that's kind of the main reason you go to war, is to establish peace and protection for everyone.